The words aren't coming. How do you find the uniqueness that is you? How do you find it? You can't figure it out with your mind. You can't figure it out with your mind. The mind is a repository of the memories of everything. Conscious or unconscious, it's there. Memories. Of the forming of you as a citizen of society, not as a unique individual, not as a living being. So the mind is this repository of the mold. The mold. They may look a little different depending on the context you grew up in, depending on the culture, which society it is, your family, the tribe around you. But it's still going to fit into the overall collective mindset of what is an accepted way of being a person. A person. A person is a role. It's not a living being. If you look at the legal term of person, we're looking at sounding out something, sounding out a role, playing a part. It's not a living being. So how do you find the uniqueness of your living being? The mind doesn't know. The mind knows only what it's been taught. Only what it's been taught. And that's luck. Have you been taught extremely distortedly, or have you been taught only semi-distortedly? You've been taught through the repository of others who have been holding the repository of the ones before them, who have been holding the repository of the ones before them. Do you see that this mind cannot get to the individuality of your unique living being, your individual spirit? It can't get there. It's an unconscious thing. The uniqueness is in the design. The uniqueness is in the form consciousness, binary consciousness. This is when I was introduced to human design. The talk of the binary consciousness and the design crystal and the personality crystal. I was like, what is that? What is that stuff? I don't know about that. That's really out there. It is more and more evident where you, in the illusion, in the Maya we live in, it's like I'm a single entity, right? But there is a definite separation between the design and the mind. And as you experiment with living your aura type, meaning your strategy of your aura type, projector, generator, manifestor, reflector, living in the dynamics, the energy dynamics of what that aura type, the way that aura type moves, and living through your inner authority, your body consciousness, the thing in you that surpasses the mind, that not surpasses, bypasses the mind. You start to get a feel for the frequency of one and the frequency of the other. And the frequency of the design is worlds apart from the frequency of the mind. The mind is stuck in homogenized do's and don'ts, shoulds and shouldn'ts, musts and must nots. It can never ever get you to your uniqueness. Is the mind powerful? Sure. Can you use it in the way that a lot of people, self-help, spirituality talks about, of manifesting through the mind? Possibly. I've never been good at that, so I don't know. That I see where the mind, for me, it's more about perspective. It changes the way I see. It's about what I see. And what I see changes the way I perceive reality. And then it seems like reality is different. Yes, this I definitely experience, particularly when it comes to situations around my health, which I've shared a bit about that before. Probably will in the future, but who knows? I never know what's going to come out. Yes. So the mind has its place. But the true place for the mind is for seeing. And what is it seeing? What is it watching? What is it witnessing? It's witnessing, possibly, potentially, not promisedly. It's not a promise, but the potential of the emergence of your unique self through the form, through the other consciousness, not the passenger conscious, the personality, which is rightful place as a passenger, seeing, watching, witnessing, looking, learning. The other consciousness is the design consciousness, the form consciousness, the navigation of life, the decision making, the taking in of the interactive consciousness field we live in and navigating through it, like the Matrix, right? Imagine, all these lines and whatever, however you want to imagine it. How do you go? I remember, I'm old enough to remember Tron, the movie's Tron. I'm dating myself. Probably people don't know what I'm talking about, but I just see these like, brr, 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 like, where do you go? You follow these lights and how do you know how to go, where to go? How do you know what your place is? How do you know what you're here to see? You don't know through the mind. It's the surrender to the form consciousness. This is the binary consciousness. We are not a single unified consciousness. We're not seven-centered, everything going up Kundalini style to the mind. That's not what we are. If human design is correct in its in what it's revealed since 1781, we are not that. I don't know about that. I wasn't there in 1781, but I know what my experience is. And now as I've experimented, I've been living with, experimenting with my aura type as a projector, waiting, sensing invitations, not moving, initiating things, waiting to be invited into something energetically, leaving when that invitation is over, and deciding if it's for me or not based on my mind, but based on my inner vision, which informs my splenic center, my taste, my judgment about what's correct and not correct for me. So when my mind tells me something, I won't say ignore it. Unfortunately, I still believe it a lot, but I don't move to it. I don't move to it. And this is what allows the uniqueness to come out. And it's a surprise because you don't know it. You've got to learn it. Your mind doesn't know what it is. It needs to watch it. It needs to watch that uniqueness emerge. The possibility, the potential of uniqueness. It won't happen for everybody. It won't happen. It's not meant to. Because the background Maya that we live in is a homogenized consciousness field. It's moving some way to take consciousness in one direction. But there is a chance for you to find your uniqueness through surrender to the form consciousness, finding that binary consciousness in you. A couple of Osho quotes. Osho wasn't talking about human design, but what he was talking about makes so much sense to me. It's the experience that that I felt. There is only one thing to be followed, and that is your nature. Wherever it leads, trust it. Nature, not your nurture, that's your mind. What it's learned, nature. Wherever it leads, trust it. Self-trust. Then he says, just be ordinary. Be ordinary. You're not trying to be anything. You're just being yourself, like the animals are themselves, like the plants are themselves, like the trees. Thank goodness for the trees, so strongly themselves. Life is amoral. It is neither moral nor immoral. Life does not know any morality. It is amoral. Life knows no oughts. It simply lives from the unconscious. That doesn't mean it's stupid. It just lives naturally from its own self, the unconscious. No, we're not talking about the subconscious and getting into all the psychology and Freud and none of that. The unconscious, the part of you that is not, the part of you that's clean, that's not caught up in what everybody else says, in the loop-de-loop of what everybody else says your life is supposed to be. Just live plainly and just live as you feel, natural, and don't bother about anybody else. That's the challenge for us. We get stuck on what everybody else is saying and looking at and judging, and then we judge that for ourselves. Then we stop ourselves from being ourselves. We don't go off in our own uniqueness because we're afraid. We're afraid. And we're afraid of others and what they'll say and what they'll do and if they'll leave us. Be existential. Let things happen. Life happens. Through you, in you, to you, with you. You are here to fulfill your own being. Your own being. Potentially. Potentially. Not a promise. Only this much is enough, that you go deep within yourself and listen to your own voice. Your own voice. And I can imagine that whoever's listening to me right now, if I say that voice inside you, that thing, that inner being inside you that tells you, not that, or yeah, it's that, go that way, and you don't know why. That one, you know what I'm talking about. You've all got it. I've got it. We've all got it. You bypass the mind with it. You bypass the mind. And in bypassing the mind, there's the potential. There's the potential of the uniqueness. The potential that you're not lost in the Maya, in the illusion we live in. We're part of it. Yes, of course we are. We can't leave it, as much as sometimes I want to. Oh, it's just my mind making up problems. But this is life. It's here. It's in this. But we don't need to be lost in it when we find our unique being.